Today we're honoring Black history across our region. From the valleys of Northeast Tennessee to the hills of Southwest Virginia, bluegrass music is a staple. But where did it come from? We'll talk about the genre's African-American ties. And in Virginia, Jay Jones is making history as the Commonwealth's first ever Black Attorney General. Hear his story. Thank you for joining us on this Monday. I'm Terry Craig, and it's an honor to be with you today as we honor Black history across our region. Those stories, and I mentioned, are only a fraction of what we're going to talk about this afternoon. But first, let's throw it back to the iconic words of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
My poor little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character.
The late civil rights activist was assassinated on April 4th, 1968. Despite being gone for nearly 58 years now, his message and memory lives on. Martin Luther King Jr. Day is observed each January on the third Monday, originally established back in 1983. The holiday itself coincides with King's birthday, which was January 15th. And when it comes to the roots of Black History Month, 2026 marks 100 years of recognition and celebrating Black culture. A century ago, Dr. Carter G. Woodson launched what was then called Negro History Week. He chose to hold it in February because it was the month of both President Abraham Lincoln and Frederick Douglass's birthdays. Decades later, in the late 70s, President Gerald Ford officially extended that celebration to the whole month. Congress passed official legislation in 1986. Appalachia is known for many things, but most notably as the place where country music was born. Thanks to the Bristol Sessions, what many people don't know is how country music actually stems from a different place long before the Sessions even happened. Ethan Offit shares the origins of bluegrass music.
The origins of bluegrass music runs deep in the Appalachian region, but its true roots and most common instrument are from further away.
When I learned about the banjo and learned about those origins, I felt like the banjo was a way for me to be able to be connected to the past and have some sort of connection to that.
Grammy-nominated songwriter Amethyst Kia's love for the banjo and bluegrass began at East Tennessee State University.
I took the bluegrass guitar class with Jack Tottle, who's the founder of what's now called the Bluegrass Old Time and Roots Music Studies. They were very encouraging of me to, be part of it because of, because it wasn't usual for, a person of color to, be in the program at all, really. It became like almost like a soul-searching, identity-finding kind of process while learning about this music that had really captivated me.
Erica Barker with the Birthplace of Country Music explains how the banjo came to the United States.
It's really the transatlantic slave trade that brings us the banjo, because when these people were forcibly brought to the Americas, they didn't get to bring anything with them, but they still had their ideas. Minstrel-style gourd banjar. And this is sort of an example of what came out of the Caribbean. When they started to recreate that banjo, it would have looked something like this.
After the banjo made its way to Appalachia, the origins of a new music genre grew. Bill Monroe is credited as the father of bluegrass, but before he was known, he was inspired by a Black musician named Arnold Schultz.
Bill Monroe often cites sort of his two major influences on his music as being his Uncle Pen and a man named Arnold Schultz. And Arnold Schultz is an African-American man that was playing music in Kentucky in the area where Bill Monroe grew up. He was actually the son of a slave. Arnold Schultz even began playing in integrated bands, and including actually giving Bill Monroe his first job. He's the one who hired him and made Bill Monroe a guitar player at the time in his band.
Today, Kia has become an advocate for Black history and bluegrass in her own way through a project called Songs of Our Native Daughters.
That project was about looking at the history of the transatlantic slave trade and Jim Crow, and using the archives of the National African American History and Culture Museum to write songs about these things, and also really incorporating the banjo and using it as a symbol for us to reclaim as being part of the Black experience.
In Bristol, Virginia, I'm Ethan Offit.
Jay Jones is making history as the Commonwealth's first black attorney general. Jones's term started on January 17th. The Democrat beat out incumbent Jason Miyares, earning 53% of the vote back in November. But he didn't do it alone. He attributes his success to his father, Gerald Jones, who was known for his activism, serving in the House of Delegates and later as a judge.
His commitment to service, even when things were tough and difficult for him, not just as a child, but as a young man and even into adulthood, his fortitude and his ability to stick with it and keep pushing is something that I carry with me, and I hope it'll serve me well in office.
Jones hopes his rise to Attorney General inspires black youth across the Commonwealth. And speaking of first, did you know Johnson City Police never had a black female officer prior to 2024? Meet Officer Lachelle G. She was sworn in at JCPD in September 2024, graduating from the police academy that December. This is her first job in law enforcement, and she's already breaking barriers, making history at the department, and that history is being captured through the eyes of local filmmaker T.R. Dunn. Dunn is producing a documentary on her, and you can watch it on 413 YouTube channel. It premieres tomorrow at 9 a.m. Black History Month means something different to everyone. It can be a time to celebrate the often overlooked achievements of black people in our society, or it can act as a time of education and reflection. Here's what some familiar faces throughout the Tri-Cities had to say.
It is a time where we honor and appreciate the contributions and the resilience of the people that helped shape our country in ways that are often unseen and overlooked, but deeply felt. Black history is a reminder that greatness can rise out of adversity.
Black History Month means to me an opportunity for we as citizens of the United States of America never to forget that those things and contributions by others are extremely important.
It's stories getting passed down, history, of course, life lessons getting passed down, and almost things that we need in everyday life that would not be possible without the people that, we celebrate during Black History Month that made it possible for us.
The important part is that sometimes we get to reflect and honor those who have gone on before us, who have done well. In fact, I often think here in this city, we've had people like Richard Watterson, who was the first African-American alderman for the city, Nathan Vaughn, who's first elected legislator.
Johnson City native Charles McConnell has quite the resume. He became a Hall of Famer referee as the region's first black high school football and basketball official after integration in 1965. But that's not all. His aspirations go back much further, as a letter he wrote 79 years ago now sits in Manhattan's Jackie Robinson Museum. Charles was a 10th grader at Johnson City's all-black Langston High School when he wrote to the man who had broken Major League's baseball color barrier that season.
It sounded like somebody who wanted to know him, who really wanted to get a chance to meet him and just spend some time talking with him. But it also was a letter for someone who was bold enough and brazen enough to send something to somebody famous, not knowing how it was going to be received.
The museum now features a webpage on the letter with interviews from McConnell and others. Coming up, did you know there's a driving tour of African American history in Wythe County? Our own Tim Cable sure did, and he took the tour back in the early 2000s, and it hasn't changed much. We'll drive into the past after the break. Let's take a trip back in time. The African American influence on history in Wythe County, Virginia was substantial.
This is the old Route 11 leading from Wythefield into Rural Retreat.
From the rural roads to more populated areas of the county, local historian John Johnson and his group wanted to preserve that history by creating a driving tour of African American sites. This was made possible through a state grant at the time. In 2002, former News Channel 11 anchor Tim Cable took that tour as part of his Cable Country series. It features churches, schools, and businesses. You can still take the tour today. With stops at 13 sites, it's estimated to take a few hours to complete, and you can learn more about it on visitwytheville.com. Back to the present now. This week, you can see an award-winning historical drama on the stage in Kingsport. The show is called Nancy and explores the untold story of an enslaved woman in the early 1800s with historical ties to our region. You can catch that show Thursday at 6:30 at Central Baptist Church. And for the Langston Center in Johnson City, Black History Month doesn't end in February. As part of its Black History programming, the center is sponsoring a trip to the Marcelise Swing Symphony. It will be an evening of jazz and swing in Knoxville on May 14th. Tickets are available for $40 per person. That includes the show and transportation. Adam Dixon with the Langston Center tells us this performance will really highlight the roots of jazz and the blues. And we have information on how to book your spot over on our website, WJHL.com.
It was a place where Black people could come. They could, have recreation. They could, rest. They could be themselves, and they could be safe.
Next, we'll dive into Bristol's Black Bottom District. A look back during its height and how its existence is being documented for future generations. From the late 1800s to nearly 1940, Bristol's Black Bottom District was a place where Black businesses thrived, right on the state line. And as we dive deeper into our region's Black history, Kelly Getz tells us how businesses nearly 100 years old are being documented today.
William Isom is the director of Black in Appalachia, an effort started in 2012 as a product of East Tennessee PBS in Knoxville. The goal has always been bringing Black stories back into the narrative here in our region, a place where African American roots run deep.
It's important for the outside world to understand the diversity of Appalachia and the diversity that Appalachia has always had.
Fast forward to 2016 and enter a woman on a mission. Tina McDaniel, a local historian and Bristol native, retired from her corporate job, wanting something more in life, finding inspiration after watching the movie Hidden Figures. It was Katherine Johnson, the NASA mathematician in the film, who lit McDaniel's spark.
She was a teacher in Marion, Virginia. So there was a segregated school in Marion. And I don't know, I think that just something triggered in my mind about, okay, so we didn't know about this story. What else is there that we don't know?
I think locally, a lot of our Black history has just not been considered important by local repositories, local historical societies. And so when you go into those spaces, you don't find the Black narratives in there, so it's up to us to simply provide labor to make sure that those narratives are visible.
From that point on, it became her mission to document Bristol's Black history, specifically Black Bottom, something she learned about just by talking to elders in the community. It was Miss Jewel Bell who shared her story about Black Bottom, and so it began. To get started, McDaniel reached out to Black in Appalachia.
Of course, I went to where I thought there would be some information, and there wasn't anything documented. So that just really caused, I guess, a sense of urgency for me.
She wanted to research and document these stories that she had always heard about Black Bottom, which is the late Black business district that was here in Bristol, Virginia.
Through oral histories and deep document dives, the two started to piece together history, quite literally, plotting the points of these former businesses on a map. At first, that map was hand-drawn, but now you can see the plots in an interactive version on the Black in Appalachia website, featuring 2 points 40 years apart.
1897 to 1930s, there's a lot of years in between there, and so we really didn't have the capacity or the labor to be able to map all of those years in between. So we felt that the earliest we could find and the height were two good bookends that we could utilize.
The late 1930s were considered the height, listing 27 Black businesses, most of which were located in the block that currently holds the Bristol, Virginia courthouse. It's where the former Lee Street Baptist Church used to stand in all its glory. Now, a marker stands in Cumberland Square Park in its memory. And it's the memory of Black Bottom that McDaniel doesn't want to fade.
I think what it does is it brings to life that there were actual Black businesses here. So there's a name, there's an address associated with it, there's an owner who ran that business. Now you can look on the map and say, hey, that's where so-and-so's barbershop was located. So it really kind of brings it to life.
While comparing her research to present-day Black businesses, one question replays in her mind.
What can we do to support Black businesses going forward and strengthen them so that there is a decent infrastructure in place where they can thrive?
She hopes this is something others think of as well. In Bristol, I'm Kelly Getz.
McDaniel has received grants for the Black Bottom Project. She plans to use the funds to bring more visibility to Bristol's history through markers and art projects. If you want to help out on this effort, you can donate to Black in Appalachia, their website right there in your screen. Coming up, the building of a formerly segregated school in Big Stone Gap may serve a different purpose today, but the memories of its busy halls are never forgotten. Hear from former students of James A. Bland High School. We'll have that next. A 72-year-old building near the Powell River South Fork is a fixture for Big Stone Gap residents, serving as town hall since 1987. The address is 505 East 5th Street, and for residents or many just passing through, it's a familiar place, but many don't know its history. The brick structure was placed on the National Historic Register back in 2024 because for more than a decade it served as a segregated black school. Its name, James A. Bland High School. The fiscal foundation came from a familiar segregation era phenomenon of black-owned homes being bought up through eminent domain. But under Principal Cato H. Shorter's leadership, it created more important foundations from 1954 through 1965.
He only wanted a chance to let the students get a chance to do what they did, and they were very successful. His job was to teach. And that's what he's tried to do, and he's instilled that to all of his teachers.
As far as I'm concerned, we had the best teachers. I guess that's why I went into payroll, because Mr. Shorter was our math teacher, and I dearly loved math.
In January, the state announced its Board of Historic Resources had approved a highway marker to be placed there. That should happen later this year. Jeff Keeling spoke with more alumni of James A. Bland. You can hear a more in-depth telling of their experience at the school over on our website, WJHL.com. And a letter from the late 60s has survived the test of time, and it's a tearful reminder of the past for one Virginia man. Hear one story of service and celebration after the break. As we wrap up our Black History Month special, we want to share a story that might bring a tear to your eye. A Virginia man has been reunited with the 56-year-old letter written by his father. The note was penned while Charles Walker was serving in Vietnam. Dylan Worley of Norfolk found the note in the attic of a home he was buying, and after a brief search, was able to hand-deliver it to Michael Walker, Charles's son. It was an emotional reunion, one that brought up old memories.
He didn't know he was going to be in Vietnam. He was afraid of that, but he tried to make the best of it, and I think that's what we all have to do. We have to make the best of our own situation, no matter how it happens.
Charles Walker died in 2005, but his son carries the lessons his father taught him every day. And thank you for joining us as we honored Black history across Appalachia. We hope you have a great rest of your Monday.